welcome to the show. This is The Writing Life, and I'm Stephen W. Long. Kind of, to me, a special day here, a couple of special guests. For one, it's a collaboration, which we don't get to talk about too often. And the other thing is, or maybe it's the same thing, this collaboration brings together text and some visual, and I think they're just lovely. So, Diane Forsberg, Joel Zach, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I really mean that. I looked up your stuff online, and the images are stunning.
Thank you.
The words are so heartfelt and so meaningful. So, as a place to start, what brought you to this? Why this direction?
Well, the direction has been coming on for some time. I've been writing all my life, but like most people, I don't put it out there.
Okay.
It's in journals or wherever. And finally, I decided that it was time. I knew that I was going to write books.
Okay.
And it was time. And so I said, what am I going to do? And I'd been going through a lot of personal growth. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, here it goes, and just put out there.
Yeah.
But I decided to have 3 books, and there's a purpose for that. In my tweaky little business mind, I'm saying the first book is because I've never written a book before.
Okay.
And
excuse me, is one of these a first book?
this one is the first one, Never
Okay.
Solitary,
Okay.
and then Never Solitary Stages is the second book.
Okay.
So the first one was for me to learn how to do it.
Sure.
Period. How to write. You know, what is it going to take for me to get this book? And I intentionally made them small. And the second one is for marketing, learn how to market.
Okay.
And the third one is just to wrap it all up and see how it feels to finish. And that's basically how they came.
Now, so is the third one yet to come?
Yes, it is yet to come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be out in a couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems obvious, the title, but maybe not. Where did that come from?
Never Solitary, the book is prayers, poems, and images.
Yeah.
And the prayers are about being engaged with everything around you, and that we are never solitary. It doesn't matter whether you're alone somewhere, you're never solitary because you have all this loveliness around.
And I don't want to characterize this in a different way than you mean it. You talked about poems and prayers.
Yes.
Prayers would indicate religious or religion. Is that part of this, or?
It has to do with spirituality.
Okay,
Sure.
which I think is somewhat different than
Absolutely,
religion.
yeah. But it's more of a heartfelt, never solitary, you're with all this. Wow, that was a difficult question. How do I say that? I believe that there is a superior power, and it's just kind of a nudge to just talk to whatever you believe that superior power is, if you believe in one.
Yeah.
And the poems, I thought it would be very, very interesting to see how 2 other mediums, 2 other art mediums, poetry and imagery, would interpret that. And that's how we got to the collaboration.
Okay. Well, I want to get into that a little bit more with the poets, but Joel, are these images just, they're really cool and you put them in? Is there writing that you say, oh, I'm going to go out and find an image to match those words? How does that come about?
Well, the images were real easy.
Really? I wish I could do that.
Well, bear in mind, I've been shooting since I was 12.
All right.
You know, and
so 10 years, my goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And so an avocation essentially turned into a professional deal. And so I've got a library of images database probably up over 100 and some odd thousand.
Goodness sakes.
So images, like I say, are pretty easy. And then my next step, of course, was to read through the prayers, read through the poems,
Right.
and select the images that I thought would best support both of those. And that's what you see there.
Okay.
You know, the images were not meant to overpower, you know, the verbal message.
Right.
They're simply the backdrop, you know, to put there.
Couple of things. Well, before I say that, and this is a little bit of a plug, but I think I read that this is, at least that you can supply images to businesses. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And just for a second, talk about that and how that works and how you...
Well, businesses come in all forms, and websites, personal use, all of that sort of thing. And just like the poems and the prayers, if the images support what the business does,
okay,
you know, that sort of thing, well then great. You know, they're there and they're available.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get back to the text, these were so tranquil, and as the images are. And I think that they do go hand in hand. On the one hand, tranquil, yes. On the other hand, it seems that they spring from something to overcome or to accommodate a situation, maybe. And you talked a little bit about growth, and I think sometimes growth can be a euphemism for something else. And,
Sure.
And
Sure.
is that kind of what you had in mind? Or maybe you're telling us this is how you approach this, a difficult situation? Or am I mischaracterizing that?
Yes, you're on the right track,
Okay.
actually. The actual prayers in the first book are from a lot of things that I started with where I was at a place of conflict. Didn't know quite what to do. I knew
Yeah.
there was something going on, but I didn't know quite what to do. And the second book is more of a journey to, okay, now I know sort of what to do with this, and now it brings up different situations, but I'm calmer and more at peace. And the third book, I believe, will be a finishing, a culmination, not like we're ever finished,
Right.
but kind of a wrap-up of the first two books,
Okay.
and move on from there.
And I didn't get a chance to read them all or study them all, but it seemed to me that maybe there's an element of gratitude. Is that?
Oh, always.
Okay.
Always,
Yeah.
always gratitude. Yes, yeah. And you know, of course, asking, but it's more of speaking aloud, talking something out. It's a lot better when you have a problem or a situation where you have a sounding board, you know, where you can talk it out. And
That's kind of.
yeah.
I mean, I certainly do that, and I've seen that scenario on a sitcom or something.
yeah,
You know, somebody comes into the room and, what do you think about? And then they spill it all out, and then the other person says nothing. Thank you, that was great, and then they.
and they walk away.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in kind of to stay on that track, am I right? You start some of these, Dear God.
I do.
Yeah, and is that what you're talking about?
God.
Well, that you're talking to God,
Oh,
or you're conversing
Right,
with. Yeah.
right. Well, for me, I just call it whatever, Great Spirit, you know, tree, whatever. I just had to settle on a word. And so God
Yeah.
is, you know, the most common. And
Sure.
that's what I did, yeah.
I wrote an essay really for myself to clarify my thinking, and it was very much in line with that. And what did I call it? Something really great. Rather than God, I call this entity something really great, because I don't think we don't have the capability, the capacity to understand what we define as, I guess depending on your religion or your outlook, as everything, or the motivating force of everything. How can humans understand that?
Well, I don't know. We certainly try.
Oh, we
And-
have to try. Yeah.
And lots of historical written things like God, Father, Lord,
Right.
you know. Buddha,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because of what I took to be the tranquility, and you said Buddha, some of these seem Zen-like. Is that fair to you?
Well, it is. I think they are.
Okay.
I don't really believe. I believe in a higher power, but I believe that everybody is one with it. So if it's Buddha-like,
You and I are on the same track
I
here.
think so. So if it's Zen-like, it comes from that.
Okay.
That we're all one. As a matter of fact, my bass company is called One with All.
Oh.
So, and I guess that's the track that I took with
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about that, about your company? I don't know what that is.
Well, it's mostly in name
Okay.
and working on a website. It's not quite up yet.
Sure.
One with All I got from a song that I heard many years ago, and I liked it, and it's just seemed like a good thing to do. It just sounds good.
It does. I love where the titles come from.
Yeah.
And sometimes a great notion, the Ken Kesey book, that was from a song. Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry.
Right.
That he saw that on the side of a bus.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
a
didn't know that.
church bus. Yeah.
Huh.
It's amazing what inspires you.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I'll think of it in a minute. I wanted to ask about the images. Are these manipulated?
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
Yeah. There isn't. Well, let me put it this way. There are very, very few images that I don't deal with out of the camera.
Right.
And these, well, just to give you an idea, the Never Solitary, the original cover here, for example, this was shot probably a good 10 years ago down in Albany. It's an Albany slough.
Really?
And to look at the original is night and day difference. And when it came to the book, I went even further with it, making it softer,
Right.
moving the colors down a bit, moving the values down a bit. But then to get that color contrast, upping that orange, for example.
Oh, okay.
So it was all with the intent of supporting the Never Solitary, the cover and the look and the feel of what the book was about. When it came to the second cover here, Never Solitary Stages, that was film, and I shot that probably back in 1974.
Really? Okay, yeah.
And
I remember film.
I do.
I know what that is.
In fact, I still shoot film. As
Do
a matter
you?
of fact. Oh, you bet. Yeah.
I didn't know that you could get it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, good heavens.
Okay.
Pick a film, any film. It could be on your doorstep tomorrow.
Okay.
But when Stages was first brought up, that was absolutely the first image that popped into my mind. Simply because of the layering, the clouds that you see.
Right.
And the way I shot it, it was compression. And so you had that visual impact of vertical stacked layers or stages.
Okay.
And that's where that came from.
I think it's interesting that, and maybe this is my naivete and nobody else thinks this, but I think it would be easy to say, well, a photographer, gee, you just point and shoot, And
Essentially, you do.
well, even
your
then,
phone.
I mean, you're composing.
Correct.
That's something.
Yeah.
And when, particularly on something like this, I've just been doing wood turning. In fact, I just came from that. And it makes me think that you start with material. You start with something. And then you have some sort of a vision about, well, it's a cliche, what was it Michelangelo said when you're sculpting, you just chip away everything that doesn't belong.
Right.
It's in there, you just take away everything else. Well, this is really even more than that, because I think in addition to the original composing and so on, you had an idea what you wanted to end up with. That kind of wasn't there. You kind of made that.
Correct. Yeah. In that particular case, that's exactly it. And for that matter, for the second one here too, that image is reversed. just simply because I knew that when I was going to do the layout, how the title was going to lay out.
Oh, okay.
And to have
So you're looking at the whole, or in your mind, you're looking at the
Yeah.
whole thing, yeah.
And so those branches originally are reversed.
Oh,
So, you know, that's backwards the way
Right.
that is. No one would ever know that.
Right.
You know, but, you know, because it works graphically for that cover,
Yeah.
that's precisely what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. The third cover I've already got,
okay.
as a matter of fact, and that's a different story.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you'll have to come back then.
yeah. But you touch on something that's kind of curious. A lot of photographers, no matter where they are on their learning curve, you know, usually it is getting the mechanics down, and then eventually it's getting the composition down, and then finally it's getting it to a point where you can step out of the car and you've already got a pre-visualized notion of what your
Right.
end image is going to be.
Right.
And all of the composition, all the elements of composition, all the mechanics involved are just simply second nature.
Right.
Yeah.
So a long time ago in college, I took a photography class, and they said at that time, the difference between a professional and an amateur really isn't knowledge in the sense of, because so often an amateur has the time to research this lens or, you know, that emulsion or something. The difference is the photographer gets the shot.
Right.
And he can, like you said, he can get out of the car and he knows,
Yeah.
he manipulate the instrument and set it all up and get the shot.
Yeah. You know, and that's a function of the aesthetics of the image. But in some cases, in a business scenario, for example, it's a function of time. You know,
Right.
you have a short, very short period of time in order to nail the image, as it were.
Right.
You know, in many scenarios, that's exactly the case. Driving over here, for example, through this gorgeous, you know, Oregon countryside.
Right.
Here you've got this full arcing rainbow, you know, in the landscape that's, you know, the Yamhill County area. Gorgeous stuff. And I'm just salivating, you know, going, well, we've got to be there at 4:30.
Yeah.
So.
But no, and so you didn't get that.
No.
Oh, nuts.
No, but it, you know, past the point, you learn to be patient. It'll happen again.
Sure.
You know, just as they say, F8 and be there.
Back to collaboration. You have two other collaborators.
I do.
And tell me kind of how did that come about? And
Are you talking about the poets?
Yes.
Or okay. The first book is Eleanor Berry, and that came about. I knew that I wanted her because I love her stuff, and I was a little shy because I've never written a book, and here she is, a nationally public, you know,
Right.
published author. And I was talking to my friend about it. We were in Sherry's, and she walks in and sits down across the,
Oh, my goodness.
the restaurant.
sort of
from
meant
me.
to be, huh?
And I thought, okay, got it. You
If
know,
I'm ever
if
gonna
I'm
do
ever
it.
going to do it, it's now.
Yeah.
So I got up and I interrupted her supper,
Yeah.
and I told her what I was doing, and she was very gracious and
I'll
said,
bet.
I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's how Eleanor Berry and I came.
And Eleanor's been on the show.
Oh, I would
I'm
imagine.
sure. I'm sure she's very special to me.
Yeah.
Colette was and is and will always be probably Eleanor's friend.
Okay.
And I was looking for a second one, and Eleanor couldn't do it, and she said, why don't you talk to Colette? I had no idea. I've read Colette's
Yeah.
stuff, but I didn't have really any idea who she was until I started chatting with her.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, oh, this is fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Yeah.
So you've got, again in the text, you've got the prayers and the poems. Obviously you wanted both. This is your idea. Do you not consider yourself a poet?
I do and I don't.
Okay.
I guess that's some of my insecurity is because I have never been to college for this. I don't have formal education for this.
Okay.
I've written poetry my whole life.
Yeah.
But I really
I think
wanted.
you are a poet when you do that. But
I think. Oh. Oh, is that right?
yeah, I think so.
But I think it was more the collaboration because I had this book in my
Right.
head,
Right.
and that's what I wanted to do. So.
Would you read something for us?
I certainly will. Yes. Let me just open up.
By the way, I said this, but folks, these are gorgeous books.
Oh, thank you. This one is called, well, this is about getting more time in my life.
Okay.
Hello, God. I've got a problem. I need more time in my life, for my life. I know where I want to go and what I want to do. I'm breaking through the walls, and it terrifies me. How can I feel so strong and confident in a choice and terrified at the same time? I don't want to give it up this time. I don't want to listen to all those negative voices in my head. I need help, God. I need your love and strength. Please, I need to feel you with me on this. Thank you again.
Great. There's another one that you did, and I need some help to remember here, and this is a little bit different. It's, I think in italics it says something like, I'm helping that nice lady or something.
Oh, yes. That was Eleanor. Do you want me to read her poem?
Please, yeah.
Her poetry?
Yeah.
Okay. This is by Eleanor Berry. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm helping this nice lady, I overhear the clerk say to her coworker, and I realize with a start she means me. Now that I no longer appear, though I still feel, young, unsure, aflame, I'm taken for this nice lady. Youth praises age as humans praise animals for imperfection, imitations of human behavior. I don't want to be praised by the young for attitudes that haven't ossified. I want to be taken for granted that my mind is limber. I don't want anyone to assume that I'm fully domesticated. I want to be taken for an active volcano, which might at any moment erupt.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And except for the gender, I have to say that sort of thing has happened to me.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In various ways, and I try to treat it humorously. I was walking down the hall of the business I was at one time, and a young man came in from a side door, and we walked together. And at some point, he said, "Can I ask you something personal?" Well, sure. How old are you? At the time, I was 55. And he almost had an audible sigh. He says, "You could live a lot longer."
What did that mean?
I thought he was afraid I was going to, I don't know.
Oh, just fall over.
I just, apparently I seemed so old, and he was probably 20.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. 55 is old.
Yeah, well, I think, Pat, when I was very young, pick a number, 9 or 10, I thought my grandmother was of an age that really, it's like being wet. You can't get wetter. You can't really be older than that, you know. And she just had reached the age when she's as old as it's possible to get. Oh. And she was probably 45.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite poems. Of
I
hers. That's beautiful.
Came to that.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about writing that gets so inside of us? Whether poem or prose, but that means so much to us.
I think the writing is there, and that it's who we are. And you just need to bring it out. I love it when I start writing and I just allow the writing to come out, and I relax my hand and just let my hand write, because it's going to come
You're
out.
just the
you
conduit.
know that.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the writing's already there, and that's who we really are.
You made that gesture. Do you write by hand?
I do. I do.
John Grisham does as well, I think.
Yeah, yeah, write longhand, and then I'll take it to the computer and play with it.
There was something, tactile might be the wrong word, but there's something different about the process, writing by hand and typing. And even then, to go from typing to computer. And I have to tell you, if I had to write longhand, I'm not sure I would. It's just, to me, it's just hard. But bless you.
My favorite is fountain pen on nice paper.
Okay.
You know, it's that sound and the smoothness.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, it really truly is flowing ink, you know, and it makes it effortless for the inner thoughts and whatnot to come out, to
Okay.
flow out onto the page.
Yeah.
You know.
Is there, and I'm thinking now of books, but maybe in the writing too, is there also like an aroma, a smell, the smell of the paper, the smell of the ink?
The ink,
Yeah.
for me anyway,
Yeah.
because that's what I use. The paper long past, you know, brand new paper out of the box, you bet.
Right.
You know, but past a point that all goes away and it's still the ink there.
I wonder how common this perception is. And so I think about this a lot when I'm writing particularly, or reading maybe. I just enjoy it so much. And it's more, the experience is more than the words, because it's the, you know, it's the feel of the paper, it's the smell, it's the weight of the book and or writing. And selfishly maybe, or short-sightedly, I think, oh, it's too bad other people don't enjoy this, but I bet you they do.
Oh, I'm sure. I would
Yeah.
hope anyway, you know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people who write than they tell you they write. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. When I talk about a book, or I talk about, start talking about authors or writing, and it's very surprising how many people will say, oh, well, I write, but I don't tell anybody.
Okay, I wasn't sure where you were going. I didn't know if you meant the mechanics of writing or getting words on paper.
Getting words on paper.
And
yeah.
the second part, getting words on paper, I really agree. And I certainly, partly because of what I do and the show and stuff, I will ask about people writing, or they will tell me. And very often I will say, oh, could I see it? Or, you know, let's pursue this. Oh, no, it's too private. So that leads me to think, I heard a teacher one time say when she first comes into the class, the first day, she has the kids write something, and she tells them, write a secret. Write something that you don't want anybody to know. And so then they do. And then nobody looks at it. And she says, all right, now tear it up and throw it away. And what she means to teach them is that your writing is yours. That nobody, don't be afraid to write. Don't be afraid that it's intimate. If you don't want to show it, don't show it. And I think for me, I like, because it's not performance art, it would be hard for me to go sing. One, I couldn't sing. But the other thing is, it's in the moment. That note or that basketball shot or whatever it is that moment. But when you're writing, you go, well, that's not very good. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can come back later and fix it.
That's right.
And that suits me.
Yeah. Well, writing has a number of purposes, but you know, I think for a lot of folks, myself included, one of those purposes is cathartic.
You bet.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, it is personal expression on a page.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the idea that some writing, just like some images,
Yeah.
will never see the light of day, will never have a public appearance, you know, is absolutely correct. And I think it should be that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. I'm in a writing group that has a long life. And way before I got there, there was a fellow who was suffering PTSD. And they tried all sorts of therapy and everything. And finally, the therapist kind of didn't know what to do. And he said, you know, maybe if you write it down, maybe you could sleep then, get this stuff out. Well, he did. It was raw and rough, but it was also entertaining. He got better. He got a book out of it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow,
And
yeah.
it helped a lot.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. Absolutely.
Well, we're out of time. So, and there's more to come. There's the third book and so on. Can we do it again?
Yes, I would love to. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
This,
It was delightful.
well, it is delightful. And this is so pretty visually and so moving textually. So
Thank you.
you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, that's it. Again, this is The Writing Life. I'm Stephen W. Long. Love to hear from you at stephenwlong.com. And other than that, just tune in again. We're going to have some more fun. See ya. Thanks.
What do you think? We done?
I don't know. You guys want to do one just with yourself without me doing the
As long as they think we're done, if they got enough, they got enough.
They got enough? Probably. Okay, sounds good.
Let's go lunch. I'm
Oh.
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could just bite too.